Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sapphic Romance Panel. So, I'm Tricia Narwani, Editor-in-Chief of Del Rey Books. I'll be your moderator today. I'm stepping in for Ava Reed, who dearly regrets she could not be here today. So we're really excited to have this discussion, and I'll start by allowing each of our amazing authors to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their books, starting with Kiersten White.
Hi! Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. My name is Kiersten. I'm the author of dozens of novels. And my next book coming up is Lucy Undying, a Dracula novel. It's for all of us who read Dracula and thought Lucy really deserves a girlfriend. She does. So I fixed it. You're welcome. Yes, you get it. I'm super excited to be here. This is actually the first LGBTQ-themed panel I've ever been invited to be on. Yes, which as a bi woman really means a lot to me. So thank you for being here. Yeah. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited. These amazing geniuses too. So yay.
I'm Heather Walter. Oh, okay, there we go. Thanks, Kiersten. I am Heather Walter. I am the author of Malice series, Malice and Misrule, and that is a queer reimagining of Sleeping Beauty told from the villain's point of view. So think Dark Fairy and Aurora are in love, but they're the same age, so it's not weird. Yes, as it should be. And then my newest coming up next month, actually, I can't believe it so soon, is The Crimson Crown, which is a rise of the evil queen of Snow White story, an origin story of the evil queen of Snow White, Sapphic, and it's mashed up with Anne Boleyn and the Tudors. So yeah, lots of good witchy, magic-y stuff to it. I'm gonna hand it over to Allison.
Awesome, wow. Hi everybody, this is my first ever Comic-Con, so I'm overwhelmed in the best way. I can't remember if I said my name. I'm Allison Saft. I am the author of A Far Wilder Magic and A Fragile Enchantment, but my next book, which we'll be talking about today, is called A Dark and Drowning Tide. It is a lesbian romantasy / locked room murder mystery about a sharp-tongued folklorist who must team up with her maddeningly beautiful and insufferably gallant academic rival to solve their mentor's murder. I like to pitch it as Spinning Silver meets Emily Wilde.
So I'm going to start by asking our authors a few questions, and then I'll turn it over to you, the audience, for your questions. So all of your books are retellings or reimaginings of a kind, whether of specific stories or characters, or just sort of general literary traditions. And sometimes these traditions are either sort of passively exclusionary or openly hostile towards queerness. Can you talk a little bit about why you chose to write reimaginings, but with sapphic characters and romances at their center? We'll start with Heather.
Oh yeah, cool. So I like this question because I write fairy tale retellings mostly, and I feel like those stories are very old. Like we know them very well. They've been repeated a lot of times. I think the Grimm fairy tale was first published in like 1812 or something, but those stories had been told for centuries. All the Grimm brothers did was just like walk around and get those stories and collect them and put them on paper. Right, that's it. And so they're very well known, but they're also very exclusionary, and they're only kind of have a certain type of person or character or only take place in a certain kind of world. But the cool thing about fairy tales, in my opinion, is that they're meant to be retold, and they're always a little different based on who's telling them, because they exist in a time before we had the printed word, and we had just oral history and sharing these stories and passing them. And so depending on who was telling the story, it would be a little bit different, and it might reflect something. You may or may not know fairy tales are sometimes used to teach lessons or to scare children sometimes, and so maybe something would be a little different based off that particular child and what kind of fear you're trying to drive into their heart, or what kind of thing they're making them trying to stop doing whatever it is, or the wolf's going to come get you, that kind of thing. So I like retelling fairy tales because first, they're meant to be retold, and second, they tend to be so exclusionary to certain types of people, and queer people is one of the main ones. It's always, the fairy tale's always the prince and the princess, like always that male-female couple. It's always the hero wins. It's just so boring. And so I wanted to re-look at those tales because they are so familiar and put this spin on them so that they could feel more relevant and more like ours rather than just stories for other people.
Yeah, and Allison, your new novel has a little bit of a fairy tale aspect to it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what Heather was saying about how fairy tales are sort of these instructionary or cautionary tales. When I set out to write A Dark and Drowning Tide, I became very interested in the violence of fairy tales. I mean, of course, we all know, stepmothers dancing themselves to death on molten shoes and so many instances of dismemberment. Dear God, there's a lot. But I think when people talk about fairy tales, they're often framed as like they tell us something about where we came from as an oral tradition. But as I was writing this book, I found myself asking this question: but like, who is we in this framework of the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves? And so I kind of thought to myself, what would it be like to have a protagonist who's a folklorist, and also from one of these groups who are often cast as the villains of these tales. For me, the story I kind of drew on the most was The Jew in Thorns, which is not a particularly well-known Grimm fairy tale. It is one of the more disturbing ones, in my humble opinion. But anyway, Lorelei is kind of Jewish-coded in this fantasy world and has sort of embraced this sort of villainous, monstrous role, and I just thought that was an interesting way to approach the story. It is a queer normative world that I set it in, but kind of the inspiration for Lorelei's character there was in the spirit of oral traditions of like, what if we made the dark and brooding love interest a lady and a lesbian? So that's kind of how I approach this.
So Kiersten, you have a different kind of retelling of a canonical story.
Yeah, this is what I like to do. I like to take books that I love, but that also make me mad, and then take characters out of them and make them mine. I did it with The Dark Son of Elizabeth Frankenstein several years ago, and I always wanted to get around to a Justice for Lucy Westenra book. And I kept trying to approach it from a YA point of view, and it just never worked until I started working with Tricia and realized, like, this is not a teen story, this is a grown-up story. And so with Lucy, and this is a book that will work if you have not read Dracula. All of my retellings, I attempt to make it accessible for people who love Dracula, people who have like vague familiar with the book, or people who have never read it. But if you've read the novel Dracula, Lucy Westenra is a 19-year-old. She's funny and effervescent and bubbly and loving and open, and everyone is in love with her. And because of that, she deserves to die. And like, it really makes me mad. And the process of Lucy dying in the novel Dracula is agonizing. It takes place over several chapters. The same thing happens over and over and over again. Bram Stoker could really have used Tricia as an editor. We could have snipped a little bit of that bud. But the thing that bothered me the most was, Lucy read extremely queer to me. She talked about Mina, her best friend, her former governess, how they used to kiss each other and tell secrets. And I was like, okay. But then also, once Lucy is killed by Dracula and comes back undead, she is presented as very seductive, and that's how she's evil now, is that she's very seductive and open about having sexual desires, and the men are like, that's not our Lucy, let's cut her head off. And once they stake her and cut her head off, then they kiss her. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is so gross. And so much of her story, she has no autonomy, and there's never consent, right? Like, they're performing medical procedures on her without ever telling her. They never tell her what's happening to her. In this repeated attacks from Dracula, she doesn't know what's happening, and that was so heartbreaking to me. And so Lucy Undying, I really wanted it to be an empowering story. It's a story that takes place over several storylines. One is Lucy's teenage journals from before she's turned into a vampire. One is covering the decades of her vampiric life, wandering the world, trying to figure out who she is and why she's still here. One is Iris, Lucy's love interest, and then some of it is Dracula. And it was really important to me to not only give Lucy this narrative where she comes to terms with what happened to her, but also realizes that she didn't deserve any of it. There's a whole section of the book that I call not Interview with a Vampire, but Therapy with a Vampire. But yeah, it was so fun to write because it's a vampire story. It's the goriest thing I've ever written. It's bloody, it's sexy, it's fun, but at its heart, it's about Lucy, and it's about giving her a journey as a character where she gets to be a full person and not just what everyone around her is projecting onto her. Which I think a lot of young women have that experience of everyone is projecting onto you who you are and who you're supposed to be, and so the narrative of Lucy Undying is taking her out of that and letting her be a real person, or vampire in this case.
So all of your protagonists identify as a sort of other, whether they're literal mythical creatures like vampires or witches, or in A Dark and Drowning Tide, marginalized minorities. Did this otherness feel essential to your stories centering queer relationships? Let's start with Heather.
Yeah, I think definitely for me, for sure. And Malice, absolutely, because that is a story about the villain or the so-called villain from Sleeping Beauty. And she feels like she's the only one who has her kind of power, the only one who's looked at the way she is. And so she is definitely an other in the society that she lived in. And it is a queer and normative world in Malice, but I still think that otherness can really be read as queerness as well, because I feel many members of the LGBT community, including myself, feel other at times and feel like we are apart from normalcy, looked at differently, treated differently. And so that is a huge part of Malice, but not because of her queerness, because of her magic and because of the role she plays in society. And in Crimson Crown, it's a different sort of otherness is the central. Crimson Crown follows Eilith, and she is set to be the next High Witch of her coven. Her mother is the High Witch, and her sister was supposed to follow her. Her sister dies, and so it's Eilith's turn. But Eilith really is not powerful at all, and she knows that she is not the person to lead the coven. Eventually, she decides to go on a mission to try to raise her sister from the dead. Doesn't go as planned. Yeah, this is a natural thing. But she's an interesting character because she should belong where she is. She has the right lineage. She's respected. Her mother is respected. She's the natural next leader, but she knows in her heart that she is not like them. So it's kind of an internalized otherness for Eilith versus an externalized otherness for Alice and Malice. And that I feel like sometimes that internalized otherness can be just as powerful, if not even more powerful, than someone else making you feel like you're other. Because when you feel like you're other, then it doesn't really matter how the rest of the world is treating you or how you perceive your surroundings or your society, because you feel like you don't belong and you're not the one. And so with Crimson Crown, it is that otherness, internalized otherness, that drives Eilith to one, try to bring her sister back from the dead, but also going to the White Court. It's also this is a bit tangent, but it's also, as I mentioned, mashed up with Anne Boleyn and Tudor. So think of Anne Boleyn's rise, but mash it up with the Evil Queen and Snow White, and how did those two rise to become the top. So her life in the White Court, where she's also internalized this otherness, but eventually kind of drives her to find her power and accept a weakness as actually a strength, and that will propel her into rising above everyone and kind of finding that destiny that was waiting for her.
So Kiersten, how did you approach the vampire theme and otherness in this?
Yeah, it's tricky when your main character is a vampire, because vampires and vampirism, there's always an element that there's no consent, right? It's an attack. You're taking something from someone. And so combining that with Lucy's origin story, where she was attacked and assaulted over and over again until she became something that she didn't ask to be, she didn't seek out. So that was it was an interesting balance to strike, right? Because there's a scene in here that I really love, where she uses a disembodied stomach like a juice pouch. So, we definitely lean into the vampirism, but for Lucy, I looked at it as, what if you had so much time to discover who you were? And part of the book is Lucy's teenage journals before she's turned into a vampire, and her struggle to reconcile her feelings and her desires with who she's supposed to be, which, growing up closeted by woman in Mormon culture was very much I felt like I had this thing inside of me that would destroy me if I ever acknowledged it or gave it any power. Like, it was going to destroy me because Satan put it there. He didn't. And it was very much a journey of my 20s and into my 30s to realize, like, that's not a destructive force in me. That's a joyful force in me. That's something that I can embrace, and it can be a joyful, nourishing, wonderful part of my life. It's not something that's there to destroy me. And so putting that alongside Lucy's journey as a vampire, she has all of this extra time to really kind of go through, like, who she is, who she was, who she's going to be, and, like, what is important to her, what matters to her. And, and then she also has the opportunity to date a lot of ladies, which is nice. She deserves it. So yeah, it was the vampirism aspect of it was nice because I got to really engage with ideas of consent, and then also give her so much time to figure out she likes ladies.
So, and Allison, you had a slightly different approach in your book.
Yeah, I definitely think this theme of otherness and difference is pretty central to A Dark and Drowning Tide, particularly its protagonist. As I alluded to earlier, the protagonist Lorelei is an ethnic and religious minority in this world, and she kind of finds herself in this university setting on this expedition with a bunch of eccentric weirdos who are also noblemen. So there's an element of class, religious, and ethnicity difference. So she is a stranger in that world, especially because most of her classmates have never met somebody like her. The only opinion they have about her is based on these sorts of fairy tales that they've heard from their nursemaids. And Lorelei kind of sees herself as, like, why bother to change, like, to present myself any differently from what they expect. It's more painful to try to be accepted and loved than to just be hated for their preconceived notions of me. But another element of her character is because she is, they're called Yeva in this book, the Jewish analog. The book is set in a loosely early 19th century inspired world. So there are elements of real world history, like Jewish quarters, because Lorelei kind of strives to be part of this academic world. She's kind of spent her whole life trying to shed her heritage. She's trying to assimilate, learn the lingua franca of the world, fantasy German, just kind of present herself as someone who can pass, basically, for in the dominant monoculture. So she's kind of a stranger in both worlds, too brunish to be fully Yevani and too Yevani to be fully brunish. And I think while this world is queer normative, the fundamental theme of the book is, and most of my books, is the healing power of love, but I also think finding belonging and shared not belonging. So Lorelei and her love interest are very much alienated in different kinds of ways. Sylvia, the love interest, has spent her whole life trying to be loved and accepted due to her family name. She's kind of, her mother was a famous traitor, so she's trying to shed that, kind of that stain on her family name. So the two of them throughout the book kind of, just find belonging in one another, even though they really can't stand each other to begin with.
Okay, so now let's get to the romance part of our Sapphic romance panel. Can you each talk a little bit about the romance dynamics in your book and how you came up with them? And we'll start with Allison, because I'm intrigued by this mention of the dark and brooding love interest.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Well, I've already talked a little bit about the romance, but I usually get my book ideas from the romance, like two weirdos who fall in love is, like, usually my MO. And I know an idea has legs when I know sort of the thing that forces them together. This book, I kind of really wanted to write like a Sunshine Grump sort of dynamic. I was playing a lot of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney at the time. So, if you see a little bit of Phoenix and Edgeworth in there, I don't know, you didn't hear it here first. But I'm just very interested in these sorts of dynamics, especially academic rivalries. It's like this sort of, you both want the same thing, and there's like years of history where you like learn all the things that like what they look like when they're studying, and And I don't know, there's just so much competition that I think it's even juicier in like a lesbian romance. It's like competing with other girls, I think, is just so, you can really get into the obsession and the jealousy and all of the like juicy, darker kinds of stuff. That was like very what I was interested in when I started writing this book. But yes, to your question, Tricia, the dark and brooding love interest, it was very much like what kind of sealed my love for this book was as I was trying to figure out the narrator's voice. It was like, what if like every dark and brooding male love interest in a romantasy novel, what if they were the point of view character, and what if like deep down inside they were a neurotic mess, full of self-loathing and just wearing capacious cloaks and stalking around. So that's Lorelei, and then Sylvia, just to keep it brief, is like her polar opposite. She's full of joie de vivre and sailing in every current and dancing in every stream, and yeah, she is what I would describe as villain sexual. She's like very into Lorelei's dark and brooding shtick, and yeah, I think You're Something Out of a Fairy Tale meets You're Something Out of a Nightmare. That's the two of them.
So Heather, you have some complicated romance dynamics in Crimson Crown.
Yes, definitely. If you like enemies to lovers, I guess like if it pings pong back and forth. So it's not strictly enemies to lovers and then they stay that way. I would say that before the book even starts, I have Eilith as main character, and when she is a teenager is with Jaquetta, who is another witch. And Jaquetta is the opposite of Eilith in pretty much every way. Eilith believes that she has to be whatever her mother wants her to be, and it has this trajectory through the coven, whatever. And Jaquetta is very much flippant about what they believe in the craft, and wants to do things her own way. Things come to a head, and the two wind up leaving each other before the book even starts. So they start off lovers, and then they're enemies when the book starts. When Eilith goes on her mission to resurrect her dead sister, she is masquerading, infiltrating the religious, hyper-religion that is in place in the country, or in the kingdom, that is replacing witchcraft and targeting witches, killing witches. And so she's inside that religion, and who else is in there with her but Jaquetta, the witch who broke her heart, ran away. And so the two of them it's forced proximity. They're both in the White Palace together, each having their own mission from their own very controlling mothers. And so, of course, that's going to both make them clash throughout the novel, but also bring them together as they start to hope for something else, something better in the world. And so it kind of brings them back from that lovers to enemies to lovers, but it does not end in lovers. I'm not going to say what it ends in. You can probably guess. There is a sequel. But I definitely liked playing with that enemies to lovers, very like high tension romance. I thought that was very interesting, kind of what Allison was talking about, especially when you have two females. Because that was the other thing that I wanted to play with. As I mentioned, this is a bit inspired by Tudors by Anne Boleyn. And we could have a whole other panel on like the history of that time period and what is believed and what is not. But when I was doing my research for this book and I was thinking about how the story of the Evil Queen and the story of Anne Boleyn were parallel in very interesting ways, I thought about what is typically believed of Anne Boleyn, that her and Henry VIII story is that of a love story. And I never bought into that very much. Who would really like that guy? I mean, like, come on, really? Like, dude had all these mistresses and kicked your sister to the curb after he knocked her up, and you're really gonna be like, that's my man. And with the same breath, they're like, oh, she was so smart and intelligent, and she knew exactly what she was doing. Then why'd she picked anybody? Like, that's who she went with. She's so smart, but she picked him. Which I guess we could have a whole other conversation about why we picked the people that we're with. But we won't. But yeah, so I thought about what if Anne Boleyn had a different reason for wanting to be queen, and it had nothing to do with Henry whatsoever. And she realized that Henry was a means to an end. And so I played with that with Eilith and her relationship with the king, which is not a love story at all. And instead, the love story is kind of a secret one on the side with Jaquetta and those two witches with their high tension.
Kiersten?
Yeah, it's funny you guys talking about tropes. I think really the only trope that I leaned into in Lucy Undying is, oops, there's only one mausoleum. It was a good sequence. So with Lucy Undying, I didn't really unlock the story until I realized that one of the points of view needed to be the person falling in love with Lucy, because I wanted the reader to fall in love with Lucy, and part of how you do that is through the perspective of someone who's doing it. So that's Iris. Iris is my character, who's a modern day 25, 26-year-old who's trying to escape from a very, very toxic family legacy. And through the course of that, she discovers teenage Lucy's journals and starts falling in love with teenage Lucy, while also falling in love with mysterious Elle, the art appraiser, because art appraisal is sexy. And so it was fun getting to write these stories, and it's fun getting to talk about this while Tricia's right here, because any of you guys writers, I'm so sorry. We can't help it. So when I always do this thing where I'm like, this is going to be so clever. I'm going to write an entire portion of this book out of order. And I'm going to write an entire portion of this book in therapy transcripts, like someone transcribed therapy sessions. And I'm going to write an entire section of this book that's just materials from a vampiric multi-level marketing wellness company. And like, I could keep going. I just put so much in, and Tricia, bless her, is so patient, and she really is like, what is the focus of this book? What is the heart of this book? And the heart of the
Questions
book...
we're supposed to answer, right?
Yes, right? And the heart of the book is the relationship between Lucy and Iris, two young women who are separated by a lot. You know, one is a vampire, one is not. One is 150 years old. One is not. But they both have moved through the world hurt first, getting hurt over and over again. And Lucy greets everyone like heart open. She just loves everyone, and she has never received the same amount of love back that she gives. Whereas Iris, because of her very abusive family dynamics, has learned to really close herself off to guard herself, because she can't ever trust that anyone will choose her over her family's legacy or money or toxicity. And so getting to write a love story where they both kind of answer that question, will anyone ever love me as much as I love them, really meant a lot to me. I loved getting to write their love story. I think I wrote like the sexiest scene I've ever written. And it's all based around consent, because again, this is a vampire story and consent is such an issue. So I was like, I'm gonna write the most sensual scene possible. And I think I did it because I have a really good editor. So you can thank Tricia for the fact that there are not documents and documents and documents about a multi-level marketing company in this book. But if you ask me really nicely, I'll put them up on my website. Because I had I like building cults, it turns out. Yeah. Maybe if the author thing doesn't work out for me, you guys can join my cult.
That scene is very sexy, by the way. So I'm noticing a theme with these romances of an aspect of the forbidden, whether it's rivals to lovers, secret identity, mortal ex immortal. Was that something you set out to do consciously? And does that have specific resonance in the context of sapphic or queer relationships? And we'll start with Kiersten.
I think I definitely set out to do that in a way, because growing up the way that I did, queer romance and queer relationships were very much forbidden. It was just not allowed. And so getting to have that element of I don't want to say transgression, but in a way there's that transgressive aspect to it, right? Where they have to reconcile things, and they have to acknowledge that there are big differences, there are big obstacles, and one of them might be being stalked by Dracula at the moment, which is hard in a relationship. It adds a lot of stress. I don't know if any of you have ever been in a new relationship and you're being stalked by Dracula. It's hard. Some people might be like, I didn't sign up for this. I definitely think that was an aspect of it, but I also really wanted to lean into the joy of finding each other and finding this connection that should have been impossible, but because of these elements that should keep them apart, they get to be together, which was really fun.
Yeah, very similar. I don't know that I set out to put the forbidden into my books, but I do think, it's definitely there. Sometimes these panels are fun because, they're always fun. Not this one. Just kidding. Sometimes I'm sitting in these panels and I'm like, it's almost my turn, and I'm thinking about a question, and I'm like, I didn't do that. And then I think, oh, I did do that. But I didn't mean to. So it's also like these like little writer therapy sessions where we like learn about our own books, like while we're sitting here in front of all of you, like in real time, these like little epiphanies. So yeah, I guess I did put the forbidden into my novel, but I think it is, as Kiersten mentioned, a lot of the themes in my books, and I feel like it may be fair to guess that it happens with a lot of writers, and perhaps with some of our writers in the audience. A lot of what is in your books is the result of what is happening in your life, in your environment, and things that are inside you that are coming to the surface that you may not even realize that they're there when they're on their page. You know, I've had some people point things out on my books before that I'm just like, oh, I did that. That's cool. And it's all just, it's as you're writing, it just goes with the art form. It just kind of comes up, like vampiric therapy sessions. Hopefully not vampiric or vampiric. I mean, whatever you want. But for the forbidden for me, going back to what Kiersten said, I'm also someone who grew up where queerness was like just not an option. It just wasn't. It wasn't me. I spent a lot of my time, and some of you may be able to relate to this. A lot of my time thinking, I'm okay with that in other people, but thank goodness it's not me. Surprise. And so I think a lot of, for me, the queerness in my books is not what is forbidden per se, but I do think that theme of the forbidden in my books comes from the fact that it was not a path that was open to me. And so I think a lot of my characters do spend a lot of their time chasing paths that are not allowed for them, or that they feel is not allowed for them. So like in my first series, Malice, Alice and Aurora being together, the dark fairy and the princess, the dark fairy is the dark fairy. She's literally the only one in the kingdom with that power. She is despised and reviled. She is a villain. They are not allowed to be together. They cannot be together. And so that's a path, not because they're two women, but because of the magic and the social setting, whatever. And so that's it. With Alice, or with Eilith, and I gotta not name my characters similar things in future thing. I realized that real late, not real late, but late enough in the game that I'm like, too bad. But it's like, note to self, no more A's, no more Leth or I's or whatever. But with Eilith in Crimson Crown, she wants her sister, but she doesn't want to go down this path of being the High Witch. She wants her sister back, and so she's willing to dabble in this kind of forbidden magic. Ooh. Sorry, that was my water bottle. Willing to dabble in this forbidden magic to kind of keep herself from going there. She's willing to take other paths that she feels like is forbidden. She feels like she can't be with Chiquetta because the way their lives have intersected. And so I do think that my characters do explore a lot of the forbidden, or they feel that something is forbidden for them. And I think it comes from like my own past and deeper inside me, that kind of thing.
Do you guys ever get so embarrassed when you get to the end of the book and you're like, you didn't realize that's what you were writing? Like you were writing your whole soul and like your religious deconstruction or whatever, not speaking from personal experience there. And then you're like, oh, right, I wrote that entire book about this without even realizing it. Is that embarrassing to you? Because it always embarrasses me.
I don't feel embarrassed per se. I think I feel more relieved because I'm just like, oh, I wrote something. Like I feel like I'm just like, I look at this and I'm just like, I feel like I just pulled this out of nowhere and I just made all this up and this is the weirdest stuff ever. And then I'm like, no, look, it's about something.
Yeah. Look, accidentally a little piece of my soul on the page. Whoops.
Oops. How'd that get in there?
Yeah, I mean, I feel very similarly to Kiersten and Heather. I am a survivor of 12 years of Catholic school, so I feel like I just have the guilt was put in me from birth. I love a forbidden romance. The romance in A Dark and Drowning Tide is technically forbidden. I mean, Sylvia is a former princess and now like a duchess, and Lorelai is a commoner. But honestly, like throughout the book, the two of them are so obviously in love with each other, and it's just idiots to lovers, and that they are so willfully oblivious. Mostly Lorelai, like partway, this isn't really a spoiler. Sylvia's like, please, Lorelai, I'm in love with you. I've been in love with you for like 5 years. Like, can we please be together? And Lorelai's like, no. We can't. It's forbidden because I'm bad. I'm a fundamentally bad person who doesn't deserve anything good in this world. So really that is the forbiddenness of like Heather was saying, just like the feeling that you don't deserve something. So yeah, really, really the self-loathing was the obstacle the whole time.
We all just hate ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're writers.
That is why we're writers.
So we're seeing such a wonderful flowering of queer and sapphic romance in the fantasy space right now. There's so many new, exciting, subversive stories. At the same time, there's a long history of queer literature that came before us. What are some of the queer or sapphic books that inspired yours, or literary traditions that you feel like you're a part of? Or you could also just recommend some read-alikes for the audience. We'll start with Allison.
Oh my goodness, whenever I'm asked this question, I immediately forget every single book I've ever read in my entire life.
Yeah.
But I can say in the fantasy space, Tasha Suri's The Jasmine Throne. If you have not read this, please fix this immediately.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like, honestly, one of the biggest inspirations for me when I graduated grad school, and I thought maybe I don't want to get my PhD and maybe I want to write books instead of analyzing them. It was in 2016, and I came across a YA fantasy called Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Colthurst. I consider this to be like the lesbian fantasy classic. Like I read YA when I was a teenager in the 2010s. I did not see any queer relationships on the page, and Of Fire and Stars was just kind of like mind-blowing to me in a lot of ways. I got my start in YA literature, so I owe a lot to that book. I'm sure Adrienne Tooley's YA books also fantastic if you haven't read those.
Got a second, The Jasmine Throne. Like that is, Tasha Suri is just so, like it's just phenomenal series. So definitely read that one. Other ones that I like, if you also like retelling, Girls Made of Snow and Glass. Is it Melissa Bashardus?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, that one's very solid. Also, her Girl Serpent Thorn is excellent. I don't know that one is actually sapphic.
It is.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Yeah, because I'm remembering like one part of the story, and I'm like, wait, was that the main? But it's not. I forgot. Yes. Okay, and that one's a great one for villains too, because the main character in that one really feels that she has a power that makes her other and makes her a monster, pretty much, and she's treated like a monster, and then she eventually just embraces this darkness in herself, and so I love that one a lot. Solomon's Crown is also a really good one. Natasha is the first name, and the second name starts with S.
Siegel, I think.
Siegel, thank you. Yes, I think you're right about that. That's a great one if you're into medieval history, because it basically poses, what if these two, like France and England, the kings of France and England, they're like 20-something, and instead of fighting each other, they're actually in love. And I'm like Lion in Winter, but with gay men. So do it. And then the very first book that ever really was very eye-opening to me and made me feel like it's okay to be who I am. This is a bit of a throwback and arguably stereotypical, but I don't care because it's true. Annie on My Mind? Anybody? Yeah. I'm telling you. I had to read it I was in library school, and I had to read it for a YA literature class, and I read it, and I remember it's got to be like the 70s that it came out. I don't know. It's very old, and it definitely was not in like the YA game. But I just remember reading it and seeing those two teenage girls fall in love in the book, and then they have can I spoil a book if it came out 30 years ago? Seeing two other characters, them realize the two other characters are also together, and it just, I don't know, that would, to me, for whatever reason, that book opened a door for me that made me feel like it was okay. And so I feel like that book is different for all of us. That was the book for me.
So Melinda Lowe, her book Ash, which was a queer Cinderella retelling that came out, I think around 2010. It was so beautiful. It was so well done, and it was so interestingly written. And then, and I will have to look this up. I'm so sorry that I didn't want to pull my phone out and look up the information, but Melinda Lowe wrote a short story a few years later that was a vampire story. And the premise of the story is that this young woman has been sent to live in an asylum, like she's been institutionalized because she is queer. And a vampire appears to her. And that was one of the first stories where I read where the vampire and the option of joining the vampire was this beautiful grace and escape from a world that told her that she couldn't be who she was. And that was really a revolutionary short story for me personally to read. It was so well done. It was so beautifully written. It did everything that I wanted Carmilla to do, but Carmilla didn't. And so yeah, Melinda Lowe wrote a vampire short story. If you come to the signing, I will look it up and I will tell you the name of it. But that story meant so much to me, and really I think showed me like the transgressiveness of vampirism, and the change and the transformation of vampirism could be used for such interesting different things than I had previously seen it used for.
So just one more question before we turn it over to the audience for Q&A. So a lot of the audience for these books are themselves queer, and it's meaningful for them to see their identities and experiences reflected on the page. Is there something that you hope that they take away from your books? We'll start with Kiersten.
Actually, can you come back to me? Because I'm just going to read a quote.
Oh, yes.
Because I already wrote it and I said it better in here than I can.
Okay, we'll start with Heather then.
Okay. I always say that I hope, and it's really meaningful when it happens, and I feel like I'm a very lucky author that I have people in my DMs or coming to me at events like this and telling me that they saw themselves in my books, and whatever it is, saw themselves in my characters, and that is really what I set out to do. I don't want to write characters who are just kind of like puppets on the page, or, you know, everyone. I want someone to read it and feel seen and feel that that character makes it okay for them to exist. And I have had people tell me that, and it's just a really meaningful experience. So I can't really pinpoint any one thing that I want someone to take away from my book, except for the fact that I hope you see something of yourself in my books and in my characters. And I hope that seeing yourself that way makes you feel like it's okay to be you, because it is.
All right, I got it. Sorry if you came to my previous panel. Okay, so this is a quote toward the end of the book, but it's not really a spoiler. The doctor, the queen, and the lover each meet my gaze, not his. My smile grows because none of us are his victims, not anymore. The suffering and the experiences and the growth we've gone through since, we're mausoleums, holding the girls we were with tenderness and love and strength. His violence turned us into our own unhallowed ground, our own safe spaces to rest, carried with us wherever we go, and he's no longer welcome. And that, to me, I think is the theme of the book, is that you know, things are done to you. People do things to you, and they change you, but in the end, you get to decide who you're changed into, and you get to claim yourself and all of the versions that you were. And I think that idea of forgiving who you were when bad things happen to you is really important to me, because obviously we should never feel like it's our fault, but we do, and we internalize that. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm such a mom. You guys, I've been a mom my entire adult life. So all of my books, I'm like, you're okay, and I love you, and you're doing great wherever you are. I see you, and I acknowledge you, and you're okay, and I'm proud of you, and you just keep going. Anyway, yeah, that's my books.
I like that that's your theme and you write horror. I know. That's all of my books. I want you to feel good and seen, and I write monsters.
Yes.
For me, I think if you read A Dark and Drowning Tide and you see yourself in Lorelai, I'm so sorry. I hope you forgive yourself. I hope you know that life is not a story we're doomed to repeat. Your fate is your own. Your life is your own. But also, I think something that I felt was very important to include in this book is that we need more butch lesbians in romance novels, non-conforming, gender non-conforming, and masculine women. You are so sexy. God bless. That's all I have.
So now for the fun part, we have time for audience questions. Who has a question for our panelists? Yes, in the second row.
So I really resonated with what you said, Kiersten. I was writing a story about codependent twin assassins, and I turned to my friend and I was like, I think I might be codependent. She started laughing at me and she's like, you just figured that out. what are the funniest moments that you had where you're like, that was a trauma moment?
Basically, if you read Mr. Magic, page 1 through page the end. The best thing I got to do in that book, so the religion that I was raised in had all these children's songs that were like to teach you moral lessons, like Saturday is a special day, it's the day we get ready for Sunday, like because you have to build your entire existence around church, and so I got to make up my own creepy, manipulative children's songs, which I had so much experience because I taught those songs to kids. That was my role in church, so that was a really fun one to do that I did very deliberately, but I definitely have had. I realized after I wrote Mr. Magic, I also was writing a middle grade series, and the middle book of that is called Camp Creepy. And Mr. Magic and Camp Creepy are the same book, but just one is appropriate for 8 to 12-year-olds, telling them that the things that people tell you you have to be, you don't have to be that in order to be good and in order to be yourself. And Mr. Magic is really upsetting version of that, with like cosmic horror, and you're gonna have nightmares. So that's always embarrassing when you realize like, oh, I was really fixated on that theme that year. But yeah, it just comes out funny ways.
I don't know if there's a single moment that I can like point to. Probably if I reread my books, which I really don't want to do. I'm good. Once she says they're all right, like after copy edits are done, I'm just like, I know I will not look upon you again. But I will say that there is a very contentious relationship with the mother in Crimson Crown, with the mom and Eilith. And I am just waiting for the phone call from my mother to be like, where did all this come from? Well, Mary Ellen, if you have to ask.
Yeah, same on that one. Although the thing is, they're never self-aware enough to make the connection. I think all of my books are little fragments of preserved traumas.
Like an amber, like trapped
Yeah,
in amber.
exactly. Isn't that beautiful? I would say A Far Wilder Magic is probably the most personal of my books, though.
Oh, so you guys, my mom's a therapist. She wasn't when I was growing up. And the funniest thing was she read one of my earlier YA books, and she's like, Kiersten, you wrote disordered thought processes really well in this book. Really, really well. And I was like, I'm still not going to therapy, Mom.
Right over there.
So first, I want to apologize to Heather for that. Oh God.
Oh no, it's fine. It's a random book to pull out.
I was totally old in that moment. Like I haven't thought about anal in my mind in 20 years. Oh my God, I know my bone.
I'm right there with you. We are aged.
It wasn't a judgment, I swear. But my question is, since you guys do a lot of appearances and discussions and stuff like that, where and what are your favorite indie book places to buy?
Mysterious Galaxy. Yes, I am a San Diego County resident. They are my bookstore. I love them. They do phenomenal events. If you can make it out to the store, they bring in a lot of really incredible authors, including me. But I'm not that incredible. But yeah, I love Mysterious Galaxy. They do a lot of the vending here. They have a booth downstairs. You should check them out. And they are a very, very, very queer-friendly bookstore. I've always felt incredibly welcome there. And they've actually helped me out a lot in my writing career. So, yeah.
I'm from Austin, so Book People. I feel like Book People needs no introduction. But one that does need an introduction and that I really, really love it's called Black Pearl Books, and I've watched this bookstore go from being in the most random location. It was tucked away inside one of those, like, it's not necessarily a strip mall, but it's just like a long building, and it's got lots of random type stores in it. And so they had a very teensy little section in there, and now they have like their entire storefront or an entire building, and they do events, and they focus on purchasing and promoting diverse books. And anytime I can, I send people over there to Austin because it's just a really great place. And the people who own it are just so nice and deserving of all of the good luck that comes their way.
Oh, I lived in Austin for a while. I have to check that one out.
Are you an Austin? You're an Austin?
I'm not anymore.
I was like, a friend.
Sadly, no. I'll be back. For me, I flew down from the Bay Area, so Kepler's is my home indie bookstore. Love them so much. They were kind of my home away, my second home, really, would let me find my footing in the area when I moved. And just as a brief shameless plug, I am doing signed copies of Dark and Drowning Tide through them, and I have some exclusive prints through them too. So if you want to support an indie bookstore and get some cool art, there you go.
So any more questions? Yes, Ramona.
Did you say Ramona?
Yes.
Who's that?
No, that is me. I was gonna ask, you guys have briefly touched on your religious background and how that kind of influenced. Kiersten, like especially I feel like every time you say something else, I'm like, oh, her Mormon upbringing really influenced her writing.
Yes,
And then,
not anymore.
You mentioned your Catholic upbringing, or like being in Catholic school. But I'd love to hear, like, if you want to elaborate on it, of like how specifically it's influenced it. Kiersten, the fact that you chose like a vampire queer love story might say something about like the overlap between satanic and queerness. So, or maybe if you guys wanted to elaborate on like if you find yourself like letting those religious like traumas or traumatic experiences like influence it at all. I'd love to hear about it. I know that's like a lot.
Sure, I'll bite. So I grew up in an interfaith household, Catholic and Jewish. So similar to my protagonist, I kind of felt like you never fully belong in any of the spaces you're raised in. But I think in my work, I'm continually drawn to themes of the dangers of ethnic nationalism, colonialism, and my background is kind of my way into that. Like my third YA novel, A Fragile Enchantment, has an Irish Catholic protagonist, so I very much was interested in the legacy of British colonialism. And in A Far Wilder Magic, there's an Irish Catholic and a Jewish protagonist, and both of them are just kind of illustrating how these, fascism works by identifying these groups and excluding them and building a national identity around these people who we have decided don't belong. It's kind of my way into these themes. And of course, 12 years of Catholic school means you get to sneak a lot of inside Catholic jokes into your books, so that's cool too.
Yeah, I was raised Church of Christ. Anybody? Church of Christ? No? All right. 10 out of 10 don't recommend. It is not as all-consuming as what Kiersten has described with Mormonism. And your faith is your faith, so I'm truly not here to disparage that. But it does lean fundamentalist in terms of roles of women and conformity and that kind of thing. And so I definitely grew up believing that who I was at my core was unacceptable in the eyes of the church and the God that church worshipped. So those kinds of themes are heavy in my books. They are there. And then Crimson Crown is very heavily religious in terms of the way that the book is set up. Witchcraft was predominantly the religion, not really. The witches were really kind of running things in conjunction with immortals for a very long time. And then a new faith rose called the Order, which is Catholic coded, but also very much my own religious experiences were basically like, that's not cool anymore. We're wiping all that out. And then this other religion becomes the land. And basically, and also, what Catholics like to do, which was sweep into a land and take all their stuff and twist it to make it their own. And so that's what this religion does in the book as well. So very heavy religious themes, but anything that's not overtly religious definitely comes from that kind of part of my life.
I think when I broke with the Mormon Church, which was a big deal because I had ancestors who walked across the plains, buoyed by their faith, right? They endured the abuse of polygamy, all those types of things because they believed so strongly. So it was a big deal. And for a long time, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to engage with it. I wanted to close the door on it entirely and not have any feelings about it at all. But then I realized part of that was there's a narrative within the church that I was raised. And again, if you are a Mormon in here, I respect people's faith. I respect the power that faith can have in people's lives. But at the same time, I expect that respect to go both ways. And my experience is sacred to me, and the things that I went through and the things that I took away from it and the things that shaped me and traumatized me, I treat that as sacred too. And so I think that was what finally got me to the point where I was willing to engage with it fictionally in a very straightforward way. I'd been writing around it for a long time. If you read my Buffy series, it's all about being like, this institution I'm part of is infallible and great. Oh, wait, maybe they're wrong. It was hard to write Star Wars Padawan and not be like, maybe the Jedi aren't right. So that was the biggest challenge of that book.
Contractually
loved
obligated.
the Acolyte. Oh man, Manny Jacinto's arms, you guys. Anyway, that was a tangent. But yeah, so for me, it was about not only reclaiming myself, those parts of myself, but giving myself permission to feel the full range of my feelings, which I have been trying not to for a long time. And that's the same thing as my queerness, right? Giving myself permission to feel the full range of my feelings and not act like they were a dangerous thing that needed to be behind a closed door, but open that up and be willing to talk about it and be willing to expect the same respect that I extend to other people and their experiences. So that's important to me, and it does show up in a lot of my books. All of them, yeah.
Any other questions? Hi, in the blue shirt.
I mean, I'm not going to name names for copyright reasons, litigious mice and whatnot. But like the Dark Fairy, she's gay, right? I mean, we can all agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I maybe this is a product of being bi. I just kind of assume everyone is. Which no offense to straight or gay people, but yeah. So that's kind of how I move through the world. And so when I read Lucy She Read is very queer to me, and I felt like it was already there on the page. But part of how I brought it more into my narrative is she has a secret journal where she tells the truth about the things that she can't say in her real journal that her mother reads. And so I kind of took the things that I felt like were already in the book, and then I made my own version that was even more explicit and on the page and undeniable, essentially. So yeah, I usually fixate on one thing and then I'm like, I'm going to make it everything. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions?
Nope.
Oh, no.
Stop.
We're having too much fun. We're being told to stop. But however, if you'd like to hear more from our authors, they will be signing after this panel and autographing Area 6. But thank you all for joining us, and please give our authors a round of applause.